They will smile at you. They will listen carefully. They might even say they understand. But the moment they see this side of you, something changes, respect fades, control shifts, and without realizing it, you step into a position you never meant to enter. Machiavelli warned about this centuries ago. Most men ignored it, and most men paid the price. You were taught that honesty builds trust, that opening up makes you human, that vulnerability creates connection. But Machiavelli never studied intentions. He studied outcomes. He watched men lose power not because they were cruel, but because they were visible in the wrong way. This is not about becoming cold. It's about understanding how people actually see you, not how you wish they would. Because the world does not reward openness. It rewards perception. There is a moment every man remembers. The moment he spoke honestly, and something shifted, maybe at work. You admitted doubt. You showed stress. You explained too much. And suddenly, people stopped listening the same way. Or maybe in a relationship, you revealed fear, insecurity, need. And slowly, respect leaked out of the room. No one told you it happened. They never will, but you felt it. Machiavelli understood this pattern clearly. Men judge more with their eyes than with their hands. People don't measure who you are. They measure what you appear to be. And appearance decides power. Here's the brutal truth most men never hear. Most people are not listening to support you. They are listening to position themselves. When you speak, they are silently asking, are you stable? Are you confident? Are you in control? Or are you leaking something? And the moment you reveal uncertainty, fear, or emotional instability, their behavior adjusts, not consciously, instinctively. They interrupt you more. They challenge you subtly. They respect your words less. This is not cruelty. It's psychology. Good men believe honesty will protect them, that being open earns respect. Machiavelli knew better. Understanding does not equal respect, and respect is what protects you. A man can be understood and still be dismissed. A man can be liked and still be controlled. This is where most men lose ground. Quietly. The side you should never show is not sadness, not emotion. It is uncertainty mixed with need. The side of you that says, I need approval. I need reassurance. I need you to see my struggle. The moment people sense you need them, power shifts away from you. Machiavelli's rule is simple. Never let people see what you cannot afford them to control. This truth hurts because it destroys comfort. You want to believe people are fair, that intentions matter, but power doesn't disappear because you ignore it. It simply moves, often against you. This is the moment where men split into two paths. One says, I'll keep being open. That's who I am. The other says, I will learn when to speak and when to stay silent. Only one path leads to control. This knowledge does not make you evil. It makes you alert, because the man who shows everything will always be managed by someone who shows nothing. And once you understand what not to show, the next question becomes dangerous. Who is watching when you do? And what do they do with what they see? That's where the real game begins. People don't exploit strength. They exploit exposure. And once you understand that, you start seeing a pattern everywhere. The men who are always interrupted. The men who are over-explaining. The men who are always understood, but never respected. They didn't lose because they were weak. They lost because they revealed weakness at the wrong time. Machiavelli watched this happen again and again. Not in theory. In courts, in politics, in war, men didn't fall because they lacked morals. They fell because others learned where to press. Every human being, whether they admit it or not, is constantly scanning for leverage, not because they're evil, but because uncertainty feels dangerous. When people don't know where they stand with you, they feel tension. And tension makes them alert. But when you show too much, when you expose fear, doubt, or emotional dependence, you remove that tension. And with it, you remove caution. This is where exploitation begins. Not loud, not dramatic. Quiet. A delayed reply, a subtle dismissal, a promise that keeps moving. You notice people take longer to respond. They respect your time less. They push boundaries just a little further. And if you don't push back, they push again. This is how control shifts without a single argument. Most men misunderstand this moment. They think, maybe I need to explain better. Maybe I wasn't clear. Maybe if I show more honesty. So they reveal even more, and the cycle. Titans. Machiavelli warned about this exact trap. He understood that appearing dependent is more dangerous than being weak. Because dependence invites management. People don't need to hate you to control you. They only need to sense that you need something from them: approval, validation, security, belonging. The moment that need becomes visible, your position changes. This is why confident men get forgiven faster, why uncertain men get judged harder, why calm silence carries more weight than emotional truth. People respond to certainty, even when it's false. And they question truth when it arrives with hesitation. Once you see this, you start noticing how often people test you. Small tests. They interrupt. They joke at your expense. They delay decisions that affect you, not to harm you. To see if you'll react. Reaction is information. Anger reveals insecurity. Over-explaining reveals doubt. Defensiveness reveals fear. And fear is a map. Machiavelli knew this. He understood that the most dangerous thing a man can do is reveal his emotional center to people who have not earned it. Because not everyone wants to protect you. Some want to measure you. And once measured, you can be positioned. This is why good men feel confused. They did everything right. They were honest. They were patient. They were loyal. And still, they lost ground. Not because goodness fails, but because goodness without boundaries becomes predictable. Predictability is comfort for others, but danger for you. The man who always explains can always be delayed. The man who always forgives can always be pushed. The man who always opens up can always be managed. This doesn't mean you never show emotion. It means you choose where and when. Machiavelli wasn't anti-emotion. He was anti-exposure. He believed that a man should be readable only when it benefits him. Because the man who is fully transparent has no leverage left. Once you understand this, you stop asking, "Why did they do this to me?" And you start asking a better question. What did I reveal that made this possible? That question is uncomfortable because it removes victimhood and replaces it with responsibility. Responsibility to observe, to pause, to control what you show. Most men never make this shift. They either become bitter or they double down on openness, hoping it will save them. It won't, because people don't change behavior out of empathy. They change it out of incentives, and incentives are shaped by power. The man who shows restraint creates uncertainty, and uncertainty commands respect. This is why leaders speak less, why silence feels heavy, why calm unsettles people. It forces them to guess, and guessing weakens position. The more people guess about you, the less they can control you. This is the descent. The moment you realize the world does not punish goodness, it punishes unguarded goodness. And once that realization settles in, you stop leaking. You stop narrating your inner world. You stop explaining your pain. You stop giving people tools they didn't earn. Not because you're cold, but because you're aware. And awareness changes how you move. Because the man who cannot be read easily cannot be exploited easily. And in the next part, you'll understand exactly what to hide, what to reveal, and why Machiavelli believed this balance is the foundation of power. Power is not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't explain. Power watches, and the men who last the longest are the ones who learn how to be seen without being exposed. Machiavelli understood something most men still struggle with. You don't need to hide who you are. You need to hide what weakens your position. Because there is a difference between mystery and deception. Mystery protects you. Deception eventually destroys you. The mistake most men make is thinking they must choose one extreme, either say everything or say nothing. But mastery lives in the middle. You reveal strength. You conceal doubt. You show direction. You hide confusion. You allow people to see progress, but never the panic behind it. This is how leaders survive pressure without collapsing. Under it. Look closely at powerful men throughout history. They spoke with certainty even when outcomes were unclear. They made decisions calmly even when fear was present. Not because they felt no fear, but because they never leaked it. Fear is natural. Showing it carelessly is optional. Machiavelli believed that the inner world of a man is sacred territory. Once invaded, it is rarely respected. This is why you must decide something early: who earns access and who doesn't. Most men fail here. They vent to co-workers. They open up to rivals. They share doubts with people who benefit from their instability. Then they wonder why trust disappears. Trust doesn't die from silence. It dies from imbalance. When one person knows too much and the other knows too little. Control always follows information. This is why silence feels uncomfortable at first, because silence removes validation. No reassurance, no emotional release, no instant relief. But what it gives you instead is position. The man who speaks less forces others to speak more, and the more people speak, the more they reveal. This is not manipulation. It is awareness. You are not tricking anyone. You are simply refusing to hand over your inner world to people who haven't earned responsibility for it. This is how you stop being reactive. When someone provokes you and you don't respond emotionally, they lose leverage. When someone tests your patience and you don't rush to explain, they lose certainty, and uncertainty shifts power back to you. Machiavelli warned that men are judged not by intentions, but by outcomes. A calm man in chaos is assumed to be in control. An emotional man in chaos is assumed to be part of the chaos. This is not fair, but it is real. And once you accept reality, you can work with it instead of fighting it. This is where transformation begins. You stop oversharing. You stop narrating your struggles. You stop proving your worth through words. You let consistency speak. People begin to treat you differently without knowing why. They listen more. They interrupt less. They hesitate before pushing boundaries, not because you demanded it, but because your presence changed. You became harder to read, harder to predict, harder to control. This is mastery, not dominance, not aggression. Restraint. The rarest form of strength in a world addicted to expression. You still feel deeply. You still think intensely, but you choose the moment. You choose the audience, because the man who knows when to stay silent can never be fully cornered. Machiavelli believed that freedom begins when no one knows exactly where your limits are. And once you reach this state, something unexpected happens. You don't feel lonely. You feel clear. You no longer seek approval. You no longer fear misunderstanding. You no longer need to explain yourself into safety. You move quietly. You decide carefully. You reveal selectively. And the world responds, not with applause, but with space. Space to move, space to choose, space to act without interference. This is what they never teach good men, that strength is not shown. It is sensed. And the side of you that must remain unseen is not your kindness. It is your uncertainty, because once that stays guarded, everything else aligns. And when people can't read your weaknesses, they are forced to respect your presence. That is Machiavelli's rule, and once you live by it, you don't become dangerous to others. You become impossible to manipulate. Once you guard the side of yourself that must remain unseen, everything changes. You stop chasing approval. You stop fearing judgment. You stop explaining yourself into safety. You begin to move differently. Decisions are measured. Actions are precise. Words are scarce, but they carry weight. Machiavelli's greatest lesson isn't about trickery. It's about self-command, about controlling the part of you that others could exploit. Once that part is safe, nothing can bend you. The world still pushes. Chaos still arrives. Pressure still comes. But now you are still, calm, present, unshakable. This is the stage where good men stop being naive, where kindness is preserved, but weakness is never shown, where honesty is maintained, but vulnerability is guarded. Because power doesn't ask permission. It doesn't wait for approval. It flows toward those who are disciplined, aware, and selective. And the side of you that remains unseen is not hidden out of fear. It is hidden out of strategy, out of clarity, out of knowing that some truths are lethal if revealed. Most men will never reach this point. They will speak too much. They will trust too quickly. They will reveal too soon. But the man who masters this, he becomes something rare. Others feel it. They notice it. Even if they can't name it, they respond to it instinctively. He doesn't demand respect. He earns it silently. He doesn't need to dominate. He becomes a force that can't be manipulated. And the final truth emerges. The most powerful men are not the loudest, not the strongest in appearance, not the cruelest. They are the ones who control themselves. They are the ones who move with purpose. They are the ones who allow only the right people into the parts of themselves that matter. Machiavelli's rule was never about domination. It was about survival, about clarity, about presence, about becoming a man who cannot be misread, cannot be misused, cannot be controlled. This is the ultimate transformation, from a man who reacts to a man who commands his own life. And once you live this way, everything else falls into place. Opportunities align, influence follows, chaos passes around you, manipulation fails before it begins. This is power, silent and absolute. This is freedom, earned and undeniable. This is the lesson no one warns good men about, until they see it themselves, because once you understand this, you are no longer just surviving the world. You are shaping it quietly, and nothing can touch the part of you that matters most. Once a man learns silence, the next lesson is far more dangerous. Because silence alone is not mastery. Silence without direction becomes avoidance, and avoidance creates weakness in a different form. Machiavelli never believed in hiding forever. He believed in controlled revelation. There is a moment when silence builds power, and a moment when silence destroys it. Most men don't know the difference. They either talk too much, or they disappear completely. Both lose. The disciplined man learns timing. He understands that people must see something, just never the whole picture, because the man who shows nothing is seen as irrelevant. And the man who shows everything is seen as predictable. Power lives in between. This is where psychological dominance begins, not by forcing control, but by shaping perception. People don't follow truth. They follow what feels stable when others feel uncertain. They look for a reference point. If you remain calm while others rush, they start orbiting you, not because you demand attention, but because humans fear chaos. Machiavelli observed this in leaders, generals, kings. The calm man in disorder becomes the center of gravity. And gravity attracts. This is why emotional control matters more than intelligence, why restraint outperforms talent, why patience outlasts aggression. A man who reacts gives information. A man who waits gathers it. And information is power's raw material. This is where most good men break. They think control means suppression, that holding back emotion is dishonest, that restraint equals fear. It doesn't. Restraint is choice. It is knowing you could speak, but deciding you shouldn't. It is feeling anger and choosing not to leak it. It is experiencing doubt and not turning it into confession. Machiavelli believed that the inner world of a man should be guarded like a city. Not everyone gets inside. Not everyone sees the walls. Not everyone knows the exits. Because once your emotional map is known, you can be invaded. This is why manipulators ask personal questions early, why they create false intimacy, why they push you to open up. They are not bonding. They are mapping. And once mapped, they know where to apply pressure. The disciplined man senses this. He answers, but never fully. He shares, but never vulnerably. He stays human, without becoming exposed. This balance is rare, and rarity creates value. People begin to adjust around you. They think before speaking. They hesitate before testing. They watch more closely, not because you intimidate them, but because you are no longer readable. Unreadable men are dangerous in a world addicted to signals. This is the stage where respect returns quietly, not loud admiration. Not praise, but subtle shifts. Your time is respected. Your words are not rushed. Your presence changes the room, and you didn't demand any of it. You simply stopped leaking yourself. Machiavelli understood that power does not come from force. It comes from positioning. You don't need to dominate people. You need to become the point they adjust around. This is how influence actually works. And once you experience this shift, you realize something uncomfortable. Most of your past suffering came from being too visible, too explainable, too accessible, too emotionally available to people who did not deserve access. This realization hurts because it forces accountability. You stop blaming betrayal. You stop blaming manipulation. You stop blaming misunderstanding, and you see the pattern where you spoke too soon, where you trusted too early, where you revealed what should have stayed internal. This is not self-hate. This is growth. Machiavelli believed pain was a teacher. If you listened without resentment, And now, listening changes you. You move slower. You speak less. You observe more, not because you are afraid, but because you are precise. Precision is the language of power. And once you learn it, chaos loses its grip on you. People still try to test you. They always will, but their tests fail quietly, because there is nothing to grab, nothing to provoke, nothing to use. You have become centered, and the man who is centered cannot be pushed easily. This is where true dominance begins, not over others, over yourself. Once a man reaches this level of control, something strange begins to happen. People project onto him. They assume strength where there is calm. They assume confidence where there is silence. They assume power where there is restraint. And assumptions are dangerous, because people act on them as if they were facts. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He knew that men are not ruled by truth, but by perception of truth. If people believe you are unshakable, they treat you as unshakable. If they believe you cannot be moved, they stop trying to move you. This is why controlled distance is so powerful. Not isolation. Distance. Close enough to be seen, far enough to remain unknown. Most men collapse this distance. They overshare to feel close. They explain to feel understood. They reveal to feel accepted. But acceptance without respect is a silent loss. Machiavelli warned that familiarity breeds contempt, not because people are cruel, but because predictability kills awe, and awe is the root of influence. When people know exactly how you will react, they stop respecting your boundaries. They push them casually. They cross them subtly. They assume forgiveness. The disciplined man disrupts this. He does not react on schedule. He does not respond emotionally on cue. He does not offer reassurance on demand. And this unpredictability forces people to pause. Pause creates tension. Tension creates awareness. And awareness restores balance. This is the point where manipulation fails, because manipulation requires emotional hooks, fear, need, guilt, approval seeking. But when none of these are visible, there is nothing to pull. The manipulator becomes uncomfortable, restless, unsure. They begin revealing themselves instead. Their impatience, their motives, their need for control. This reversal is not accidental. It is the result of inner discipline. Machiavelli believed that the strongest men were not those who conquered others, but those who mastered their own impulses. Impulses, information leakage. Every emotional reaction tells the world where to strike. Anger shows where you feel disrespected. Defensiveness shows insecurity. Overkindness shows fear of rejection. Once you understand this, you stop reacting for relief and start responding for position. You still feel everything, but feelings no longer drive behavior. This is the difference between boys and men. Boys react to feel better. Men respond to stay in control. And control does not mean cruelty. It means composure, the ability to remain internally steady while others shake. This is why calm unsettles people. It denies them feedback. They don't know if they impressed you. They don't know if they offended you. They don't know where they stand. And uncertainty weakens aggressive intent. Machiavelli observed that men hesitate when they cannot predict consequences. Hesitation slows attacks, slows manipulation, slows disrespect. This is how you regain authority without ever raising your voice. Slow movements, measured words, delayed reactions. You begin to feel space around you, not distance. Space. Space to think, space to choose, space to act deliberately. And in that space, you reclaim yourself. Many men mistake this stage for coldness. It is not cold. It is clarity. You are no longer bleeding emotion into environments that cannot protect it. You no longer look for safety in exposure. You build safety through self-command. Machiavelli believed that once a man controls himself, others feel it instinctively. They adjust tone. They change posture. They respect boundaries without being told. This is silent authority. And it is far more effective than loud dominance, because loud dominance invites challenge. Silent authority invites compliance. This is why the strongest men rarely explain their strength. They don't need to. It is felt. And once you feel this shift, you realize something profound. You were never weak. You were just visible in the wrong ways. Too available, too transparent, too emotionally open in environments that reward control, not confession. This realization doesn't harden you. It sharpens you. You become selective, intentional, aware. You still connect. You still care. But access is earned, not assumed. And when access is earned, loyalty deepens. Because what is rare is valued. This is the deeper layer of Machiavelli's lesson. Power is not taken. It is preserved through discipline, through silence, through knowing when to show and when to withhold. And as you continue forward, one final truth becomes clear. The most dangerous men are not aggressive, they are controlled. And the next stage, the final stage, is learning how to use this control without becoming empty. Without losing empathy, without losing purpose, without losing yourself. That is where true mastery lies.